Hi, chairs and directors and delegate alternates, as well as support staff for chairs and directors. My name is Jennifer Bliss, and I work at the Sponsored Programs Office. I am the Electronic Research Administration System Manager, as well as the Human Subjects Coordinator for the campus, so you may have met me one of those ways already. Today, I'm going to teach you how to review and approve a proposal in Kuali Research. It is many things, but right now it is primarily an electronic routing system for grants and contracts, and it replaces the blue sheet packet from your level up. It does not replace it for PIs since we have not yet trained faculty, but when and if you receive it in your department, you will scan it and email it to spo@csumb.edu, and we'll take it from there. And it will return back to you electronically through Kuali Research. So hang on and I'll share my screen. We can talk about it. When you are required to do something in Kuali Research, you will always get something called an action list reminder email. Currently, they're all called an action list reminder. And the only action that you really have at this point is just to review and approve proposals. I'm in the process of configuring the IRB module for human subjects. So starting in fall, you'll also be getting action list reminders for reviewing and approving protocols. But at this point, it's just proposals for grants and contracts. And you'll see this action list reminder to your email to let you know that you have something to do. I'm going to walk through some of this information on this screen. It's very cryptic, I understand. MIT developed this early on and it really hasn't gone anywhere since then. And I'm in the process right now of working with the vendor to enhance these. So shortly they'll be better, but for now I'd like you to understand how to sort of decipher what's here. The most important part for you is always in this line right here. Starts with the title. It gives you a little bit of an abbreviated title, a proposal number, a PI name, sponsor, and at the very end is the most important part, and that's this right here, the due date. The due date is not your due date for signing off. It is the due date to the sponsor. So as you know, as a chair, there are many people after you who need to review and approve this proposal. So as soon as you see one of these action list reminders, log directly into Kuali ASAP. A couple of things I want to talk to you about with these links right here. This link will actually technically get you all the way, there we go, to the record that you need to review in Kuali. However, our email client here at CSUMB for some reason doesn't recognize this URL in completion. So what it does is it links a portion of the URL, and so when users click on it from their desktop on campus, it directs them to an invalid URL or an invalid site. So you can either copy and paste this and add it to a new tab, and it will take you directly to the record that you need to review. Or you can do what the provost and other signing officials typically do now, and that is the minute they get an action list reminder, they log directly into Kuali. They don't even read this, and here's why. When you log into Kuali, here's your landing page. Currently, the dashboard is under configuration, so it's very sparse at this point, and shortly there'll be more information here. Probably by end of this year, you'll have a full dashboard and it will lead you to other things. We'll get to that when we launch it. But for now, when you log in, you're going to log into your action list. And the reason why the provost, so I'm going to return to the email here, the reason why the provost does this is because from the moment that the action list reminder is sent out to you to the moment that you log into Kuali, something might have happened and we may have had to recall the proposal, which means that when you log into your action list, you may not find anything here, and that's perfectly okay. That just means that the Sponsored Programs Office or University Development found something out that they needed to recall the proposal for before you reviewed it and signed off on it. We recalled it from you, and you will shortly get another action list reminder about it. So if you get an action list reminder email, you log in here, there's nothing, that's fine. But typically you'll log in and there'll be something here for you to look at. And in this case, Doctor Who does have something to review, but Doctor Who does not, this individual right here, this PI doesn't report to Doctor Who. That's okay. That means someone else on the proposal is in his department and he still has something to do with this proposal. If it says he needs to approve it, he needs to approve it. So note on that email, it says here that Dr. Lovell is the PI. That does not mean that you need to ignore it. It means that you need to log into Kuali and check the whole thing for probably a co-PI, or sometimes key personnel will also be in there and need to be routed to you. So the way you get into that record is you can either click directly by the ID number or click the button for show and see a little bit more information. But because you're a signing official, you must log into the full proposal. So you can either get to it from here when you've shown a little bit of information, or I just recommend that you just click directly on this ID number and open up the record, because you have to look at it, the whole thing anyway. When the record opens, it will always open up to this proposal summary tab on the summary submit navigation bar. When you're a signing official, you will only ever work in the summary submit tab and across, all right? When we roll out to PIs and we start training them, and you may be a PI wearing a PI hat from time to time as well, you will be working in these tabs. This is where the Sponsored Programs Office and University Development currently work in. And when we hit Submit to Routing, it goes to this tab, and this is where you will work as a signing official, all right? As you can see in this window, this is the summary information. It's basically the same thing that was in that email, the action list email. A little bit more, you can see the full name of the title. And again, you note that it's Jennifer Lovell is the PI and she's in psychology. And obviously Doctor Who still can't tell, okay, why am I being asked to approve this? But he keeps going. He notices that there's a very quick turnaround on this sponsor deadline date, so he needs to do his review and approval pretty quickly. So the next tab is where Doctor Who's going to get some information about why he's been asked to approve this proposal. Here's the principal investigator's name, but as you can see, the co-investigator is somebody from his department. So that's why he's been asked to take a look at this proposal and sign off, because it's just the same way as what the blue sheets were, except for instead of 2 blue sheets being routed simultaneously out to the different departments and their deans and then marry them back up later, this is all done electronically. We're not using the compliance tab right now because I haven't yet finished configuring the human subjects module, but that's the first one will be coming this fall. And the meat and potatoes for every proposal for every reviewer is going to be in this attachments tab. The attachments tab always opens up to the proposal tab, but I recommend that you start here, on the notes tab, and here's why. The notes tab won't usually have anything there. It'll be a 0, like this one says 0. Normally this will be 0, but if there is a note, usually it's the Sponsored Programs Office or University Development calling attention to something else on one of these tabs, right? So I recommend that you start here, because if there's something that applies to these other tabs, you'll want to know about it first. So once you've had a chance to take a look at this, you can go back to the proposal tab and start over where it began, and you'll see that these are just attachments. You just click on them and they'll either download or they'll pop up in your window depending on how you have your browser configured. You need to look at every single one of these files just the way you would with a hard paper copy to the blue sheet. And once you're done with each tab, you move to the next one. The personnel tab will have any kind of sponsor required documentation for the PI and or co-PI. And it could be anything, but it just has to do, it's unique to each proposal guidelines. Abstracts we don't use very much yet. So as we develop proposals for sponsors who require lengthy abstracts, you will start to see more information here. On the internal tab, institutionally, we have certain types of documentation and permissions that we need to see have been cleared in advance of a proposal. So for example, buyout, RCR plans. RCR plans are something that the sponsor might require, but they don't want to see the plan. They just want to know that one's on file. So that's the example I'm using here. There could be a variety of different types of internal documents that need to be reviewed by signing officials, and those will always be listed here on the internal tab. And finally, we're back at the Notes tab, which you read in the beginning, but I'll call your attention here to Notes from other signing officials. These, anything that you have to say about this proposal or anyone before you has had to say about this proposal, that information is stamped in a different place, and I'm going to show you that next. So let's say you think you've approved this proposal, you like it, it looks good, but you just want to have one quick check at what others had to say before you. So you open up the route log, and underneath Actions Taken, this tab or section is a little area called Annotation. And here you can see that Dr. Dyer Seymour approved it already in advance of Dr. Who getting logged in. And here he can see that she mentions that the collaborative partner letter is in progress. Oh, right. So this proposal has collaborative partnerships, and there wasn't a letter from one of the partners or the only partner, and she's acknowledging that she knows it's in progress, and she's approving the proposal anyway on the condition that that particular documentation gets cleared up by the end. It's a way of telling you as a signing official and also the Sponsored Programs Office or University Development that you're aware that something's in progress, but you approve the proposal in concept. You'll see here that there are several people down here in pending action requests, and I wanted to just kind of give you a heads up as to what these are. Your support staff will be FYI'd on proposals that you need to sign off on. So here's the support staff's FYI for math and for psychology. And here's Dr. Who's approval. He still needs to do it, so he's listed here. And then it gets bumped up simultaneously to the deans. So an important thing to note about proposals that have multiple chairs or multiple units involved, and that is that the record moves from role to role. So for a proposal like this, it will automatically notify both chairs simultaneously, but it will sit at that chair level for sign off until both chairs have signed off. As soon as both chairs have signed off, then it will roll automatically to the dean level and progress from there. So I just want to give you an example of what it would be like to return something, but I'll also do an approve so you can take a look at that. Here's what returning a document or a record looks like. When you return anything, you absolutely have to provide us with some hint as to why you're returning a proposal. It's required, and that's so that staff in Sponsored Programs Office as well as others can see what might have caused you to not allow this proposal to be routed from your point on. When you do return a proposal, it will return to the Sponsored Programs Office and eventually the PIs when they're trained up. It'll start all over and it will go back through the entire routing process. And that's perfectly fine. In fact, we recommend that you return a proposal if there's something that needs to be changed prior to routing all the way through. But it is important to note that some changes could be made on the fly and other changes need to be applied and stamped into the record. In this case, you might return it because the collaborative partner declined to participate, and in which case then you would return it. You would say, declined to participate, and then click OK. You can also attach a file if there's something that needs to be corrected in one of the attachments. This is where you would do it. And similarly, the return and the approve buttons are right next to each other. Similarly, in the approve window, you do not need to leave an approval comment though. When you hit the approve button and you click OK, it's stamped into the record and you don't need to do anything else. If by chance you do want to leave a comment, that's fine, but just like the return comment window, everything that you write in this window is stamped into the route log for all eternity and for everyone to see. So I highly recommend that when you do decide to leave a comment, either here or when you have to and when you're returning a proposal, that you leave just a hint as to why you may be returning or commenting here. But if you have a lot more detail, please call or email so that we can sort it out separately from the comments box, simply because this is an auditable trail document. All right, so we're going to say yes, it's okay, and approve it. That means it's going to move to the deans now. And something that happens every time is you'll get this warning window. That's fine. Yellow is good or a warning, and red is a full stop. So in this case, this window is just letting you know that the documents that have been attached to this record are not named in a way that would work if we were submitting system to the federal government. But we're not doing that yet, simply because the PIs aren't trained and we don't have a whole lot of federal government proposals that must be submitted system to system. So at this point, we're just doing it this way. You can always click out of the yellow boxes, and you'll note that the attachments here are telling you the same thing. There's something wrong, and it was just it's just about the file names. So you're all done, but if you'd like to just double check and make sure that you've signed off and everything's good to go, you can always check in the actions in the route log, and check the actions taken section to see that, yep, in fact, Dr. Who is signed off and he didn't leave any kind of an annotation, so that's fine. And it's now moving from FYI, now it's going to, oh, look, here are the deans. Yay! All right, so you can close this out, and I recommend, just as a good best practice, I recommend that you go ahead and check back into your action list. It's not too common with chairs that you'll have another one just pop up, but it happens quite frequently with deans and delegates and certainly the provost, that by the time she's done reviewing something, another one will have been submitted. So just for good practice reasons, check your action list. If it's empty, you're good to go. If there's one that's new, voila. Remember that your action list is always current. So even if you got an action list reminder and you log into your action list, they could be inconsistent with each other, the emails and the action list. But the action list is always the valid one. So I'm going to show you, right now we've been working in the sandbox environment. This is our test environment, but I'm going to show you how you would get into Kuali if you, for some reason, didn't want to copy and paste this link or didn't have it saved to your browser. And the way you'll do that is from the Sponsored Programs Office website. Right down here on our home page is a link to get into Kuali Research, the production environment. So this is the URL that you're going to want to save to your desktops and to your mobile devices if that's what you use more frequently. And there's also 2 help resources that are links that are on our home page as well. And I'm going to show you a little bit about those now. So the first one is the SPOTech Help website. And this is just simply a documentation and guidance site. It's set up to get at that documentation and guidance in 2 different ways. The first is by the type of documentation. So if you know you want to get to the knowledge base or the user guidance or see videos, this is where you would go. But in the second category is the role that you have in this particular question. And in this case, you're a signing official. So we're going to go ahead and get started and check the signing officials links. And sure enough, here's the review and approve proposals link. And there you go. Now you can get into Kuali from these links. And it's also got a link to our SPO software knowledge base. This is a frequently asked questions and answers knowledge base. It's just a Google group, but it works as a keyword search system. So let's say you have a question about signing official. And you'll see that there's several questions and answers that have been posed and answered before you. And that's in part because The signing official training began with Kevin and the provost and Cindy and Barbara, and we've backed out through the deans, and now I'm finishing up the chairs now. And eventually I'll have more questions when I start training the PIs, and that information will be here as well. So you can get to Kuali from the Sponsored Programs Office website, the main landing page, open to the public. Here it is. And you can get to SPOTAC Help and the knowledge base from there as well. And once you're in Kuali, you're mostly going to work in this action list. All right. So that is the basics on how to review and approve a proposal in Kuali Research. And if you would like to schedule in-person training, I'm more than happy to do that. Check back with your email message from me inviting you to this video for a calendar for scheduling any of those appointments. And if none of those appointments work for you, you're always welcome to email me and we can schedule something individually. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to call. I'm at 831-582-5130. Thank you.